are frozen, people are out ice skating. This was normal activity. This doesn't happen much anymore.
Charlie, I was going to say, this map shows us the 4 voyages of Henry Hudson. And you can see that in his first and second voyage, he went north, trying to find his way through the ice, as Charlie mentioned. And a couple of things that happened on those northerly voyages was that he became very aware of whale activity near Spitsbergen and actually played a role in the development of the whale industry because of the reports that he made about that. But in both of those early voyages, he didn't find what he was looking for. It was on the third voyage when he headed back up again to the north, but then veered south, went along the edge of Greenland, down along the coast, met up with John Smith in Virginia, and then on his way back, came into New York Bay and made his famous journey up the Hudson River. The last voyage of Henry Hudson was into Hudson Bay, and as probably many of you know, he didn't survive that voyage. His crew became very nervous about spending a second winter in the cold waters, mutinied and put Henry Hudson and his son and his first mate and some of his crew ashore, and Hudson was never seen or heard from again. But the map gives you an idea of what he did and approximately when he did it. And we are celebrating this third voyage, which is now 400 years ago this year.
Since we're celebrating Hudson this year, we should know a little bit more about what happened to him. He wasn't put in a rowboat, as I saw in an article recently. He was put in a sloop with a sail, mast and a sail. It was a navigable boat. After the mutinous crew took off, leaving Hudson behind, they stopped and anchored to split up the food and aboard the ship. Somebody looked back and they saw Hudson gaining on them. So they pulled up the anchor and put the sails up and put some distance between them and Hudson. So Hudson was in he wasn't in a little, another place I saw that they put him adrift on a raft. He was in a sloop, one of the sloops that they carried. They usually carried 2, right?
Yes.
Aboard these exploratory boats.
And the Half Moon probably towed the sloop behind it. So here's a painting of the Half Moon in 1609, sailing for the Dutch East India Company as it makes its way up the river. The painting depicts the ship in Newburgh Bay. And this gives you some idea of, well, this is a later map of New Netherland, but Charlie will explain a little bit about what's going on shortly after Hudson's time.
What's very important to understand about New Netherland are the waterways. The Dutch lived and died by water in Europe. They did the same thing over here. They took control of the Fresh River. After Hudson sailed up as far as Albany and back out, other explorers came over, traders and explorers, such as Adrian Block. He knew that Hudson had come all the way south to Chesapeake Bay and came up from the south. Block had access to Hudson's logbook. We don't know where the logbook is anymore, but he quotes from it in various places. So we know that he was looking for Cape Cod for this point, and then along the coast. He knew that it was somewhere in this area. Block goes into all of these river systems looking for the Hudson, and when he finally gets almost to this dead end here, there it is. And he sails up to the Albany area and opens this whole trade network between the Pequots or the Shinnecock, the Indians making Zavant or wampum in this area, trading with the Mohawks for furs, since they can't make Zavant, and it's something that they prize. The other river system is the Delaware. People neglect this river system, but it's one of the most important here. because it comes up right behind the patroon ship of Rensselaerswyck and into the fur trading country. Stuyvesant says at one point, if the English take over the South River, this was the North River, South River, then we might as well go home. There's no reason for us being here anymore because they'll cut into the trade and they'll destroy the trade for the Dutch. Fortunately, the English never discovered this. They came up several times. They took over a Dutch trading post here, Fort Nassau. They put some soldiers in, but as soon as the Van Twiller found out about that, he sent soldiers down and rounded them up and took them back to New Amsterdam. This whole region is sort of terra incognita for the English for a long period of time. It's not until Hermans, Augustine Hermans, I forgot his first name for a second, how could I do that? Augustine Hermans came down for an embassy with the governor. He was commissioned by Stuyvesant to come down and keep the English tobacco farmers from coming over to harass the Dutch settlers in this area. They were so impressed by his knowledge of the region that they hired him to draw a map of Chesapeake Bay. The first accurate map of Chesapeake Bay is done by Augustine Hermans. The King of England at that time was so impressed by what he had produced that they gave him a big chunk of land over here. And he becomes a Maryland citizen.
So what is this landscape like that Henry Hudson sails into in 1609? I made, this is a small watercolor that I did for a book that came out about a year ago. I never really intended it to be more than a sketch, but quite a lot of people have responded to this image because there's the half moon and there are the Catskill Mountains. He must have been an incredibly brave soul to do this, to sail into this unknown waterway and investigate it. Who lived here? Well, we know that there are a number of tribes, and there are a number of languages that are spoken. The predominant languages are Algonquian and Iroquoian. The Iroquoian people, the tribes of the Iroquois nation live to the north and west. The Algonquin people stretch fairly far to the south and to the east. This is a painting that I did entitled Paxcani. It's a summer encampment of Mohicans just south of Albany, about 5 miles south of Albany. The waterway that you see in the background is the Paxcani Creek, and our back is to the Hudson River. We're only a short distance from the river. We know a fair amount about this little encampment. Historians believe that there may have been 30 to 50 people living here. They stayed only through the planting and harvesting season. You can see that there's the corn crop and squash and bean crop. Archaeologists found the post molds of these structures, so we know the relationships of those buildings. It was the archaeologists who worked on it were Karen Hartkin and Lucianne Lavin. There's also a weir, a little trap that's been set across the Paxcani Creek that the Indians used to trap fish, and we know something about their diet. But these would have been the people that would have met Hudson's ship and crew, and it would have been many different people from different tribes that encountered the Half Moon on its way up the Hudson.